All right, so Dan's going to demonstrate a couple reps of the medicine ball slam. Now, a lot of people use either bouncing or non-bouncing implements. You can see that basically all we're getting is a little trunk flexion here. The bad thing about this movement is that we're only getting it for a small range of motion. There's not a lot of tension. A good amount of force, but low tension. And a lot of people aren't even doing as good of a job Dan is in reaching back and achieving full range of motion. And relax, and good. What we want to look at is why are we doing this motion? So a lot of times people go because I want to train my core, I want to train my abs, I want to get some metabolic training. The thing is we can do the same thing a little more productively, because if we think about a lot of sports, where people get hurt is on the raising up part. But you don't get hurt slamming something down because you have momentum going with you. So what Dan's going to demonstrate is a series of exercises we really like to implement with a variety of athletes, or if you want to get a great metabolic circuit going. So Dan's going to grab our ultimate sandbag here. We have attached to our core strap and bands. He's going to high pull it up into a Zercher position. Now the band, instantly we can gauge it. The further he goes back, the more tension he gets, and he's instantly pushing through his heels. So keeping his chest out, he's going to hinge back and then drive through his hips. Now we can do everything from it being really slow to very dynamic. The great thing is he's also getting postural work in his thoracic muscles up top. Again, if we have people that are really flexor dominant, the people that are office workers or throwing athletes, we rather spend time doing this type of work because we're reversing a lot of the type of training they're already accustomed to. Now from here we can actually go extended range of motion. So what Dan's going to do is he's going to do the same hinge back, and as he comes forward he's going to squeeze his butt cheeks and extend back in the extra range of motion. You see he's actually going beyond the neutral position. The only way he can do that is by actively clenching his glutes. There you go, Dan. And again, great for MMA athletes or people that are going to try to lift objects or be combative athletes. This then follows into a little more explosive drill where we actually leave the ground. And he leaves the ground because he creates so much force in his legs that actually pops him back. So Dan, let's go show a couple. Good. Nice. So now we're getting even more athletic because he's generating so much force in the ground, it's propelling his body off the ground. And relax, Dan, nice. So you can see how very quickly that became a very powerful metabolic circuit, or he could use it for really reinforcing good posterior chain development all the way up to the upper back. All right guys, so part of the benefit of doing the good mornings with the resistant bands and the different progressions is that you're not just working the hamstring and the glute, you're isometrically working the low back, and you're getting a great isometric contraction out of the thoracic extensors, those postural muscles, as well as the arms. The coolest part is as Dan extended into those extreme ranges, he's also going to get a little more core work in a more functional manner, because part of the rectus abdominis job is to resist extension. Another way we can teach that very important deceleration component is through our different chop patterns. So what Dan's going to demonstrate first is just our general chop from our power position. So he's going to touch it down and then chop right over his head. Now he's doing a great job of creating a small arc that comes right over the top of his head. If we have him hold the top end position, right there Dan, what he's doing is he's got a brace against himself going into extension in the movement. So it's acceleration, deceleration. He also has to decelerate on the way down. Come back down. Nice. So there's two components which are both very practical for sporting applications, because not just how much force you produce, it's how much you can absorb. So the other variation we can use is a rotational chop. So Dan's now just going to change the angle. He's going to rotate, chop, and then decelerate again. Good. So now he's changing the coordination, the complexity of the exercise, making it a little more integrated, working from the ground up again by adding the very important foot pivoting action to make it more rotational and to make it more practical for the sports environment. Nice job, Dan. There's many other variations you can use, but check out, see how powerful these variations are, and that you can use them in place of the medicine ball slams or contrast them and see how much more benefit you get out of your training programs.